always recommend running an up-to-date version of Google Chrome when using Blackboard and Blackboard Collaborate Ultra.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Boulay.
I'm Chris Bird.
And we're learning systems technologists at Nipissing University, and we're really excited to share with you our second episode in our teaching talks. Today's episode, we have a special guest. We have Dr. Denyse Lafrance Horning. She's the Experiential Chair at Nipissing University, and we talk a little bit about what experiential learning is, and maybe some ideas and some tips on how you can implement that into your remote teaching coming this fall.
Then we're going to get into our Blackboard tech tips. This episode, we're going to cover how to set up your weighted total column using categories. We're going to talk about some basic navigation with Blackboard Collaborate, and we're going to do a quick Teaching Hub walkthrough as well.
Awesome. We're really excited for this episode. I hope you are too, and we'll see you on the next one. Enjoy.
Thanks for joining us. Today, we are very happy to have a special guest, Dr. Denyse Lafrance Horning, teaching chair of the Experiential Learning at Nipissing University, as well as a member of the Faculty of Education and Professional Studies in the School of Business. Thanks for joining us, Denyse, and we appreciate your time. Can you start by giving us a little bit of an introduction about the Experiential Learning Center at Nipissing and what that entails?
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me, guys. It's my pleasure to be with you and to talk a little bit about experiential learning. In 2018, Nipissing University launched a teaching chair program, and at that time, I took on the role of teaching chair of experiential learning. And I think that was a really important milestone because it recognized the importance of experiential learning in education and in particular at Nipissing University. So in my capacity as teaching chair, my mandate is really to encourage the adoption of experiential learning across all of our programs, and to facilitate the sharing of information and to really support faculty as they take on these types of projects. So one of the things that I've learned in my 2 years is that Nipissing University is absolutely fantastic at experiential learning. We have been doing it long before we were mandated to do it, or long before it was kind of the thing to do. And we're exceptional at it, but it was a bit of our best kept secret. So over the last couple of years, I think we've done a really good job at sharing and learning from one another in terms of all of the incredible experiential learning that is taking place and continues to take place and be offered at Nipissing University.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. We hear it like experiential learning a lot, and I think you can probably touch a little bit on what that means for Nipissing and what it means to you.
Sure. It's a great term, and most of the time, people are like, what exactly is it? And we all have a bit of a different interpretation of what exactly is experiential learning. I tend to embrace a very broad view of experiential learning. And, others might think of it as simply a co-op or placement. But in fact, it's a broad umbrella of potential experiences that students can have. And the one distinction that I always highlight is that, an experience itself is not experiential learning. It's an experience whereby we can learn and grow and develop. So we often talk and refer to this cycle, an intentional learning cycle, where students are supported through an experience, and then the really critical part is that there's this element of reflection where they can think about that experience, and then that reflection and that learning will then influence their future behavior. So it's this continuous cycle of you do, you think, you redo, you do, you think, redo. And I think it's something that we all do, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. That's how we make decisions. That's how we grow and develop. And if we do something and it's a great success, we'll reflect on that and think, wow, I should do more of that. That worked really well. And some of the best learning often comes when we have what some might consider a failure. It didn't work well. And it's really important that we learn from those experiences as well. So next time we're in that situation, we might do things a little bit differently. So experiential learning to me, again, is very broad in terms of learning by doing and influencing our future actions. And there's just so many different ways that students can benefit from those types of experiences.
Agreed. I can very much appreciate the learning by doing. Personally, I've always been a very hands-on visual learner. So having experiences like that, or doing things outside of the typical textbook PowerPoint slide classroom setting, has always benefited me personally. One thing I wanted to ask is that, moving into this all fully online fall semester, how do we incorporate experiential learning into an online environment? How do we ensure that students do still get that opportunity to have those experiences, for lack of better words?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the one thing, over the last couple of months that has impressed me so much is the creativity that is taking place, and the innovation, because we have to. So most of experiential learning typically, and I mean, it can happen in the classroom, but in a lot of cases it happens outside the classroom anyway. So the fact that we might not be on campus in a traditional manner, to me, doesn't mean that we can't do experiential learning. There's lots of ways that faculty can continue to support their students as they have these real life experiences. There's some tools that lend themselves very well to virtual delivery, whether it's simulation games, guest speakers, discussion boards. But there's also other ways that I think we can get creative, and we can encourage our students to do things, and then have some kind of virtual platform where they can discuss, and we can help them to capture their learning. So I'm encouraged that there'll be a lot of ways that we can continue to offer experiential learning, and it's really across all of our various programs. And one of the themes that we're hearing, especially through our teaching hub, and through our dean of teaching, is the importance of being mindful through this time, that everybody is learning as we go, which is experiential learning, and really being flexible and adapting to our students' needs. So I think that will be the guiding principle as we develop and support our students through continued experiential learning.
Nice, thanks for that. I think you touched on a lot of great points there too, right? There's a lot of technology that can be used to be creative, and we've got a lot of opportunities. Like experiential learning, just like in an online course, is unique to each instructor and to each subject matter. We've seen some of the other universities going down the road with augmented reality for experiential learning. Like you said, guest speakers. We have all the technology at Nipissing. I think people just need to kind of dip their toes into it and not be afraid, right? Do you have any tips to kind of encourage people to not be afraid and to delve right in?
Well, I think Nipissing University again has always been a very strong teaching institution with the recent launch of the teaching hub, and the new position of a dean of teaching. There's just a wealth of information that's being shared, and I think it's important for faculty to be receptive. There's a big mindset shift in realizing that that there is a new normal. And sometimes I think we can be a little apprehensive and overwhelmed with the potential learning curve. So I think we just have to be open to trying things. We have to recognize that not everything is going to work, and we adapt and we go. And when we had to finish the last 3 to 4 weeks of the term online. And my experiences were very positive. Students were fantastic. They were flexible. Everyone was doing the best that they could. I think the benefit that we have now is, we have some clear direction on what the fall will look like, and we have, several months where we can get informed and test things out. So I think that will be absolutely critical as we prepare for the fall, because the one thing that we want to preserve is that Nipissing experience. And our experience has always been, one student at a time. And how do I support my students? My involvement in experiential learning with my students has been exactly that. It's in a lot of cases been customized right down to the individual student. And a tool that has always worked very well through these learning experiences, journaling. And we use Blackboard and we use journals, and students will sometimes get guiding questions to think about their experiences. And other times it's just kind of open reflection. And my role as a faculty has always been not to evaluate if the reflection is good or bad, but rather to encourage the practice of reflection. Who am I to say what's a proper reflection and what they learned from it? But to put that structure in place to encourage them to consciously, in a disciplined way, reflect on that experience and how they can grow from that experience. I think is a key tool that we can continue to use regardless of how we're delivering these courses.
Yeah, I think with the times we're in right now, I think certain folks are going to have to sort of jump right in. I think, like Rob said, how are some of the ways we can encourage that? I think right now we're in a position where they're not going to have much choice, and they're going to have to choose a direction to take. And I think that's a good thing. I personally do, because um, I think education as we move forward is going to be more online and maybe more focused in an online environment. And the sooner we get people up to speed with certain tools and what's available to them, the better off we're all going to be. So I think this is a in spite of what's actually happening around the world, this may be a good thing for the future of education in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I said that I had an opportunity to hop on to a couple of webinars. And after each one, I'm just completely impressed with all of these different platforms and tools. So I think a lot of us, I've never really taught online. So I have this idea of what an online course looks like. These static, delivery and PowerPoint, and it's not at all that. What I've seen and all the different tools that I've had an opportunity to look at, they're engaging, they're exciting, they're creative. The time flew by. So I think that for me, as I think to my courses and how I'm going to deliver them in the fall, I'm kind of excited to look at some of these different tools. And I expect that when we do, and we will get back on campus, our beautiful campus at some point, I envision that I will bring some of these tools into the classroom, because they're so fun, and they're very current, and they're very engaging. And I think in some cases, these are platforms that, you have a first year class, you have 80 students. There's a lot of students that aren't always engaged in a big class. Some of the tools that I've seen, live polls and word clouds and all these different tools, I think will be a way to engage all of those students, whether they're shy to speak into a big class. So I'm pretty excited at the opportunity and the technology and the platforms that are available. And I look forward to learning more of that over the next couple of months.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're really excited to in having some of the conversations with faculty about what they'd like to do. We like to encourage that the sky is kind of the limit, and
Yeah.
however you want to get there, like that's our job, is to kind of help you as learning systems technologists to get you there. So we're really excited about this time period too. So thanks a lot for your
You
time.
guys, you'll no doubt be very busy, guys.
Yeah, we look forward to it though. It's exciting
Good.
times. It's crazy times,
Yeah,
but it's also exciting times.
It is. Well, thank you very, very much for your time today, Denyse. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing what the future holds for us in the online learning environment.
Super. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Hello again. Thanks for joining us. If you recall from last session, we set up our weighted total column in Grade Center based on columns that you've created in Grade Center. Today, what I'd like to talk about is how to set up your weighted total column using categories. What I'll get you to do is scroll down in your course shell, and on the left-hand side under Grade Center, click Full Grade Center. If you recall correctly, we've set up our columns the way we wanted, titled the way we wanted, and in the order we wanted. What I'll get you to do is hover over Manage and go to Column Organization. And if you recall, this is where we reorganize the order of our columns so that they displayed the way we wanted them to. What I'd like to focus on today is the category column here. You'll notice that none of the 5 items that we have in our class currently have any categories assigned. That's what we're going to do right now. So go back to Full Grade Center, hover over Manage, and then click on the Categories button here. Now for today's purpose, I've created all the categories we're going to need, but should you need to create your own, simply click on Create Category, and that's where you can create your own. We'll go back into Full Grade Center and back into Column Organization in the Manage menu. And we're going to scroll down here. So what we see is Quiz 1 and 2. I'm going to couple those under the same category because they have a similar value and weight. And we're going to categorize those as tests. Next, we're going to categorize discussion posts as discussion, our group project as group project, And you guessed it, the final exam as the final exam. Be sure to hit submit once you've made all your selections, because this is what ensures that the selections are saved. And we'll go back into Full Grade Center. Now that we have our items categorized, what we want to do is set up the weighted total column using these categories. So click the drop-down menu next to weighted total and click Edit Column Information. And once again, we'll scroll down to where we selected our columns previously, but this time we're going to select categories. So, like we discussed, I'm going to click on Tests because we know that Quiz 1 and Quiz 2 are both categorized as tests. We'll pull those over with a combined weight of 30% at 15% per test. Next, we're going to select the discussion post, pull that one over. We know that that one's out of 20%. Next, we'll pull over the group project, which is also worth 20%. And finally, for my course, we're going to pull over the final exam at a weight of 30%. Now again, what we're seeing here is our total weights have been set up to be out of 100%. And that's all we need to do. Click the submit button and you've set up your weighted total using categories.
In this video, we'll show you the basic navigation of Collaborate, where to find your tools, how to do a recording, and how to adjust your settings while you're in the session. So to start off with, over in the bottom right, we'll see the navigation panel. By clicking it, it expands it out into the chat. You can see two different chats to start off with, everyone and moderators. Next over, you'll see the attendees list. This lists all your students and guests who have joined the session. I personally like to change this so that it's not in this menu, that it stands alone. So in order to do that, you come up here to the three dots and click More Options and say Detach Panel. And that will make this attendee list a permanent part of your instructor canvas. Next to the right, we have Share Content. So we have the Share Whiteboard, Share Application Screen, Share Files. You can do polling, and you can do breakout groups. We'll cover a bit of these later in another session. Next, we have My Settings. And this is where you can initially configure your camera and your audio to make sure it's working if you join the session early. Simply click the set up your camera and microphone, and it'll run a wizard that'll walk you through everything. Notification settings is where you can adjust your notifications for the session. So whether you get a pop-out, an audio alert, or a browser notification. This is all based on personal preference and what you like to know about what's going on in your session. Session settings. In this option, this is where you can control what participants can do in the session. You can do this while the session is running, so you can turn on or off features at any time. If you turn off Share Audio and Video and Draw on the whiteboard, then all that the students would be able to do would post in the chat messages. And then it comes to your question period. You could turn on the Share Audio and Video and then answer their questions one by one. If you want them to be able to draw on the whiteboard or your PowerPoint space, you can enable that option. The last option I want to cover is how to record a session. And so it's not in the Collaborate panel, it's actually in the hamburger menu in the top left. By clicking that, you'll expand the list and there's an option to start recording. Select Start Recording and the session is now being recorded. And you can tell by seeing the recording icon just below the hamburger menu. To stop recording, click the hamburger menu once again and say Stop Recording. I hope this session has been helpful and informative. Join us for more information about Collaborate in our next session.
always recommend running an up-to-date version of Google Chrome when using Blackboard and Blackboard Collaborate Ultra.